the maestro of madness and genius. In the vibrant and tumultuous world of music, one figure stands out for his unparalleled contribution to sheer emotional power of his composition. Born into a modest family in the city of Bonn, his early life was a mixture of hardship and promise. His father, recognizing his son's prodigious talent, pushed him relentlessly, often harshly, to achieve musical greatness. By the age of 7, the young boy was performing publicly, showcasing a talent that belied his tender years. As he grew, so did his fame. In his early 20s, he had moved to Vienna, the epicenter of the musical world, where he studied under the great masters and quickly made a name for himself. However, beneath the surface of his rising success, he battled a relentless, unseen enemy. His mood swung from exhilarating highs, where he composed with feverish intensity, to crushing lows that left him incapacitated. These cycles of mania and depression, documented later as bipolar disorder, deeply influenced his work and his life. His personal relationships were fraught with difficulty. His volatile moods and intense personalities often alienated those closest to him. Despite these challenges, his genius shone through in his music, which was marked by a profound emotional depth and innovative complexity. His symphonies, sonnets, and concertos broke new ground, pushing the boundaries of musical expression and form. A turning point in his life came when he began to lose his hearing. For a musician, this was catastrophic. The initial signs of hearing loss plunged him into despair. He withdrew from society, retreating into himself and his music. Yet, in isolation, he found a new kind of creativity. Unable to hear, he began to compose in his mind, relying on his inner ear to guide him. This period of intense solitude and struggle produced some of the most extraordinary works, including the iconic Ninth Symphony with its triumph, Ode to Joy. Despite his inner turmoil and growing deafness, he continued to compose, driven by an unrelenting desire to create. His compositions from this period are infused with a sense of struggle and transcendence, reflecting on his own battles with fate and his ultimate triumph over it. His music became a beacon of hope, illustrating that from the depths of personal suffering can emerge works of sublime beauty and enduring inspiration. Maestro's later years were marked by physical and emotional decline. His health deteriorated, and he became increasingly isolated. Yet even in his final days, he never ceased to seek the solace expression of his art. His last composition, though fewer, continued to push the boundaries of what music could convey, leaving an indelible mark on the world of classical music. In the end, his life was a testament to the power of the human spirit. Despite the crippling effects of his disorder and the profound loss of hearing, he rose to the pinnacle of musical achievement. His legacy is not just his music, but his story of resilience and unyielding determination. Ludwig van Beethoven, a journey of child prodigy inborn to one of the greatest composers of all time, in a story of incredible hardship and sublime triumph. His battle with bipolar disorder, documented in such works as A Key to Genius, Manic Depression, and the Creative Life by D. Jablo Hirschman and Julian Lieb, underscores the deep connection between suffering and creativity. Beethoven's life and music remind us that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, one can achieve greatness and leave a lasting legacy that inspires generations. As we reflect on Beethoven's incredible journey, let us embrace the hope and possibility that his life represents. Let us carry forward his legacy of perseverance and creativity, believing in our own potential to rise above challenges and achieve greatness. In the spirit of Beethoven, let us face the future with hope, courage, and unyielding belief in the power of the human spirit. Beethoven's life and music fills us with hope, reminding us that no matter what trials we face, we have the strength to overcome, create, and inspire. His story is a timeless testament to the enduring power of hope and the limitless potential of our spirit. Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me as always, Doc Jess.
Hey, thanks for being here.
All right, Jess, what did you think of that story of Beethoven? Did you know that about him?
I did not know that he had bipolar disorder, but if you as you were reading it, it doesn't sound like they knew it at the time either, and it was a reflection back of those moods, ups and downs. I could see a lot of very, very intellectual and gifted people having bipolar disorder, because it's in those moments of the mania where brilliance can come out, and in those lows that motivate those times of mania where their gifts are really being used. I don't know. Those are just my initial thoughts. What about yours?
You know, the thing that was most surprising to me was that he went deaf. I didn't know that. That must have escaped me my whole life. I did not realize that he had gone deaf. And one of his most sought after concertos is Ode to Joy, which was the first one he wrote after he had gone deaf, where he's only hearing the music inside his own head, and then had to produce that so people could hear what he was only hearing in his own head. I thought that was pretty remarkable. And you mentioned something in pre-show about, or maybe it was Casey, about how he had cut the legs off of one of the pianos and had it on the floor so he could feel the vibrations because he couldn't hear them.
Yeah, I had read that somewhere, and so had Casey. So when he brought it up, I was like, yes, I do remember. I think maybe my dad told me, because he's real into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating just that I'm not giving up. I'm going to continue to push forward. The resilience of the human spirit, I thought was really, really remarkable. And you see that with people that overcome huge obstacles. It's because they just don't quit. They don't get it right every time, but they just keep trying.
Well, and how many people are completely, what's the word? They feel completely useless when they struggle with a disorder like bipolar disorder. But to be able to reflect on such a powerful and profound man who brought about so much beautiful music, his life wasn't useless.
Yeah, that's why I tell people when they share their story and their struggles and their successes, it makes it attainable for other people.
Yeah, I feel like that might be a theme as you dive into these stories of these famous or historical figures who are normalizing these things for us, sometimes decades later.
Right. And just think about how much more difficult it would have been for them back in those days when nobody understood it. Nobody knew what was going on. They didn't even have a name for it. When you think of, and there's some other historical figures that I've researched and written stories about where they just call it melancholy or they call it a sad heart because they have no idea what to call it, what to name it, how to treat it, anything like that. And so we're so lucky to live in a society today where we can actually map portions of the brain and we can see exactly what's happening and find solutions around it, which is pretty cool. We found some really cool tech that can help people with bipolar.
Yeah, tell me about this tech.
So this is cool. They're just studying this right now. And for me, I kind of get into a rabbit hole with this stuff.
No.
So I found one and I was like, this is cool. What else is there? And I started digging deeper and I found some really cool tech that's not technically on the market yet, but it's going through its trials and it will be coming out soon. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and they don't name this in the study. So I literally could not find the name of this technology. So if somebody finds it, put it into the comments because I'd love to find out who's making this tech. It's a bracelet, like we have our smartwatches and our Fitbits. It's a smart bracelet like that, but it's a lot bigger. It covers a lot more surface area of the skin. And I'm talking like 3 inches of the skin. It's like a bangle, not a bracelet, okay? This thing is big, but what it does is it tracks the electrical impulses on your skin, and it can detect small variations in the electrical impulses that are happening on your skin's surface from when you're going from manic to depressive. And so it can track that. It takes a little bit of time for the technology to be able to get enough data points to figure out where your highs and lows are when you're going from manic to depressive. And then it can start to not just track it, but alert you when you're coming and going in and out of those states of consciousness.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
It is.
I hope that it's successful and that it comes out, because I've, not only do I see clients who struggle with bipolar disorder, but I've had some close friends and family in my life that it's just really one of the harder disorders to live with. It can be. And
yeah, I have a really good friend who she struggles with it. And you wouldn't know. You would have no idea. But if you're close to this individual, then you do know that they struggle with this. Mm-hmm. Here's what I found out, because I do research. So they're doing this in Europe. Only 1% to 2% of the population in Europe are affected by this order. So you think 1% to 2%, that can't be that many people. Did you look at my notes?
No.
How many people do you think?
He likes to show how sophisticated I am. Yes,
how
go
many?
ahead.
What is 1% to 2% of the population in Europe? What do you think that number is?
Oh gosh, Aaron, 1% to 2% of Europe, I would say. $1.6 million.
10 minutes later.
1.6 million.
No, close. No,
seriously?
Not close. No.
Oh.
Well, it depends. 700,000.
Whoa, that's really close. Actually.
700,000 people.
Yeah, 700,000.
So think about that. Just in Europe,
yeah,
there are 700,000 people who are affected by bipolar disorder. That's a lot of people struggling with not a whole lot of hope for technology to help them.
What's the percentage in the United States?
I don't know. I didn't look that up. I didn't have a
It's going to be a lot higher than that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And that's interesting because Europe has ingredients that are illegal in their food consumption that America doesn't have.
Oh, I know. They won't import a lot of our food over there because it's not food. It's just chemical and filler.
Have you ever seen the videos where they show this Doritos in Europe and the Doritos here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's insane.
Don't get me on that topic.
That's
I will go crazy on the whole. We talked about that before, the food here in America. But okay, so this is what else they're doing. Another piece of technology. Wearables are so cool. So they have another one that can help people with bipolar, tracking the same information when they're sleeping, but it's a shirt that they wear that tracks your sleep, and it tracks the electrical impulses that are happening on your skin's surface to be able to tell them about your sleep patterns and how that relates to your bipolar disorder as well.
Yeah, because if you struggle with bipolar disorder, you know somebody that does, or you have somebody that's close to you, getting a good night's sleep is one of the most important things they can do for their mental health.
And so right now it's just tracking these data points to give you like an early warning system. But once you have that data is so powerful to help you see patterns and be able to solve these problems.
Yeah, that's neat.
Pretty fascinating. So what did you find for scripture verses for this?
I went to the very essence of Ephesians 5:22 through 23, and that's where they talk about the fruits of the Spirit, right? And one of the fruits, let's see where I'm at, 22. Nope, wrong one. That's wives submit to your husbands. Maybe what?
Still a good verse.
6:22, I think it is. 6:22. Nope. Is it Galatians? If Galatians 5:20. Yeah, there it is. Galatians.
Jeopardy theme music.
Okay. So Galatians 5:22 says, "But the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control." And so the reason why I want to bring up that verse is if you struggle with bipolar disorder or other mental health challenges, a lot of the symptoms and the side effects of these disorders are not in your control. And a lot of them are in your control. And so one thing that I heard, I love Pastor Matt says all the time, well, maybe not all the time, but control the controllables. So the things that are not in your control, we got to learn to let those go. But the things that are in your control, you have got to take ownership of those. And things such as a good sleep hygiene.
A daily routine.
Daily routines. Tracking your mood. Learning and understanding that your emotions aren't factual and they should not dictate how you live your life. They are good references to be able to work through things and know that you're a human being and you have feelings, yes. But we all have that person in our life who is completely controlled by their emotions, and it is exhausting. And there's a certain level of power and control that you have over that. And I think it's great that the scriptures say, especially with the help of the Holy Spirit, he helps you with that power of self-control.
You know, something that when I was researching this in scripture, I went a different route. And I was thinking, like, who in the Bible probably really struggled with bipolar? And so there's a lot of characters that you could probably think of right now that you guys are thinking of. But the number one that comes to my mind is King Saul. Like that
makes
dude
sense.
was unhinged, bro. It's crazy. It says that he would suffer with sadness. And so he would ask David to come into the court and play a stringed instrument for him. And he would feel better. He would feel his spirits lifted. And then he would suddenly get angry and like chuck a spear at homeboy. And then chase him out of the room and try and kill him. Literally try to kill him.
Talk about bipolar.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty
really
extreme.
High highs, really low lows, manic depressive. Hits every one of those key markers. Speaking of markers, did you pull up the DSM-5?
Yeah, let's read.
Yes.
You know what? Let's read this in reference to
Yes.
King Saul.
In context of King Saul, like tell me if this guy does not hit all these markers right here.
Okay, let's see here. This is my giant purple book.
Oh, if you're not familiar with the DSM-5 manual, this is the mental health manual for all psychologists and counselors. It is basically, for lack of a better term, the mental health Bible for professionals.
Yeah. So this is what we go to when we're doing our diagnostic for our clients or our patients. Like this is a lot of information. So we're going to talk first about the manic episodes. So King Saul had a distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive or irritable mood and abnormally and persistently increased activity or energy lasting at least 1 week and present most of the day, nearly every day. During the period of mood disturbances and increased energy or activity, 3 or more of the following symptoms have to be present in order to be diagnosed with a manic episode. Number 1, inflated self-esteem or grandiosity. That's good. Clip that picture. Decreased need for sleep. Do we really know about that?
It doesn't really talk about that.
More talkative than usual or pressure to keep talking?
Doesn't really say that.
Flight of ideas or subjective experiences that thoughts are racing?
He does talk about that because he talks a lot about, in the context though, about the different spirits that are attacking him.
Distractibility as reported or observed maybe by others? So your attention is too easily drawn to unimportant or irrelevant external stimulus. Didn't he have a bunch of wives?
He had a bunch of wives. Yeah.
Concubines?
So maybe.
Maybe. Increase in goal-directed activity. He was a king.
Yeah, so he was he was always trying to
It says either
kingdom.
socially, at work or school, or sexually.
Oh, yeah.
Or psychomotor agitation.
A psychomotor agitation. Break that down because that seems like a song lyric.
Psychomotor agitation is more of like, it's like, how do I say this? Like non-goal directed activity.
Just being busy?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So excessive involvement in activities that have a high potential for painful consequences.
I mean, dude is always going to war.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to chase down King David.
Okay, then we have hypomanic episode. So this is a hypomanic episode is the distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive, or irritable mood and abnormally or persistent increased activity or energy level lasting at least 4 consecutive days and present most day.
Yeah, because he was calling David in like every day.
Yeah. Again, a lot of those same ones. And then here we have the major depressive episode. Let's go straight into that. So we need 5 or more of these in order to be diagnosed. So number 1 is depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day, and as indicated by either subjective report. So
yeah, he was because he was always asking David to come in and play for him because that was the only thing that relieved his
melancholy.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Markedly diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities most of the day. Mm-hmm.
Yep, because he was just laying around, doing nothing, wanting David to come in and play the harp.
Significant weight loss when not dieting or weight gain.
Doesn't say.
Doesn't say. Insomnia or hyperinsomnia.
Oh,
nearly
yeah.
every day.
Yep, because he couldn't sleep. He was tormented, said day and night.
Yeah. More psychomotor agitation or retardation nearly every day. Observable by others, not merely subjective feelings of restlessness or being slowed down. So kind of slow movements.
Methodical movements.
Lethargic
Yeah.
type. Fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt.
I would say, I don't know about the guilt. Oh, no, he did feel guilty. Remember after he would chase David and then he would feel bad about it and so he would stop?
Yeah.
And then you'd get agitated again, so he'd chase him down again?
I don't know if that's excessive guilt or inappropriate guilt, though. That's very appropriate guilt.
That's true. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll still have 3.
Diminished ability to think or concentrate. Diminished ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness.
He was very indecisive because one day he's chasing David, the next day he's not.
Yeah. Reoccurrent thoughts of death. I don't really know that about him.
Yeah, I don't know about that one either.
Yeah.
So
right now he's bordering bipolar.
yeah, we just don't have a lot of information. Could you imagine if you got to study him though? If you got to like interview him for a couple hours?
Oh my gosh, that would be, I wouldn't want to.
50% of Americans say that they or a loved one have suffered from mental health crisis. Together, we can change all that. Introducing QActual, a revolutionary new peer-to-peer based mobile application. Personalized to fit your lifestyle, with pinpoint GPS location in times of emergency. Connecting you to your care provider. With QActual, we will move you forward. Download QActual now and visit QActual.com.
Yeah, cool. Those are cool scriptures. Those are cool stories to step back into and see the relevance of today's mental health crisis.
Right. We know more today about mental health. And so then we can look back at these historical characters and be like, oh, wow. You can tell this guy was probably struggling with this disorder based on what we know now. It's pretty cool to look back.
Which leads me to Brother Paul in the Bible.
Oh, yes.
The thorn in his flesh.
Yes.
I think it's PTSD. We can go down that road another time. The dude got stoned to death 3 times.
Before that, though, he was murking Christians on the regular.
Yeah.
Torturing and killing them. So you know that had to cause some distress.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy had some trauma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You ready to do the cards?
Yeah, let's go. You've been on a roll again.
Yeah. Living that thug life.
Yeah. You're gonna get this. Are snakes the only creatures that shed their skin?
No. We shed our skin every day. All reptiles shed their skin, but so do humans. Humans shed skin cells every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, there's a mollusk too that does it. Do I know what? Is there a bonus question?
Do you know how much in weight humans shed skin a
In
day?
a lifetime or what's the time?
In a year.
In a year. I would have to say 3 pounds.
What the heck? Many creatures shed their skin. Did you know that humans shed over 8 pounds of skin in a year?
That was close.
That was pretty close. Fortunately, we do it just a little at a time. Otherwise, there'd be a whole new meaning to being naked. What?
Wow. Well, I'm smaller than the average person, so I probably only shed 3.
Wow.
I'm just a little guy.
8 is average.
8 pounds of skin. That's so terrible.
So gross.
Well, you probably shed more because you get sunburn like every other week.
I do.
And so you really do peel.
I do. It doesn't matter how much sunscreen I put on.
I know.
No, my skin has gotten damaged over the last 40 years so much
Melanoma.
that I need to get checked. Anyways, let's dive into this tool I got for us.
Yes. Okay. So we created a tool for you guys talking about bipolar, manic depressant. So here's your tool.
Yeah. So one of the most important things, if you are diagnosed with bipolar disorder or somebody you know or love, this is going to be a great resource to share with them. The best tool is structure, routine, discipline. Have you ever heard that from us before? Nutrition, sleep, and mindfulness. If you don't know much about mindfulness, it's a really great tool. And maybe we can do a special on mindfulness someday.
Yeah, and last episode, we talked about thoughts, feelings, and emotions, recognizing them. And that's what mindfulness is. It's recognizing what are your thoughts, what are your emotions that are coming up, it's thoughts, feelings, emotions. Okay. That's what mindfulness is. It's what thoughts are coming up, what feelings are associated with those thoughts, and what emotions are attached. It's being able to recognize those in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And really, that's all meditation is becoming familiar with. And so there's some controversy over meditation with some people, but we meditate on the Word of God. We're becoming familiar with it. We're constantly becoming familiar with something. So let's be intentional and become familiar with things that are going to better us.
And people that do have that knee-jerk reaction and think it's controversial, they're just not educated enough on it. And so in my experience, once I educate them and they have a better understanding, they totally get it. So if people push back on that, you just need to educate them politely. And I've had a lot of people with a better understanding no longer push back.
Sure. And meditating on the wrong thing can be dangerous too.
Oh,
absolutely.
Sure.
So it's okay to proceed with caution.
Yeah,
yes.
Because then it's actually called rumination. And then we ruminate on these negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, or we ruminate on sins of the flesh.
Yeah.
And that leads us to a life of destruction.
Yeah. So this tool we have for you is it's a daily mental health tracker for bipolar disorder, but it could be used for a lot of different disorders. And the first thing is going to be, you're going to just write the date so we can track what date we're on. And then the first part is going to be mood tracking. So it's going to be morning, afternoon, and evening. And you're going to rate your mood from 1 to 10. You're going to describe the mood and you can note some events or thoughts, feelings, emotions, right? Number 2 is going to be tracking your medication, because people who struggle with bipolar disorder, one of the biggest, regressions is when they go off their medication cold turkey and don't put in the proper tools in place to be able to, because it is possible to live with bipolar disorder and not be on medication, but I would proceed with caution and make sure that you have lots of things set in place that are going to be healthy for that.
And here's the problem, and because I've known a couple people that struggle with this specifically, is that they're taking the medication and so they feel fine. And so they think, I don't need the medication anymore.
Yeah.
So they just stop and they don't tell anybody. Within just a few days, they start getting into some really severe mental health crises.
Yeah. So we're going to track our medication as well. And there's a spot to do that here. We're going to we're going to track our sleep. What time we went to bed, what time we woke up, total hours sleep. And then we're going to rate our quality of sleep. And maybe even add under the notes section things that you're doing intentionally to build better sleep hygiene practices. Then we're going to track our physical activity, duration, intensity, whether it's light, moderate, or intense, and then some notes there. And then there's an area to track our triggers. And so what is the trigger or event? What was the time? What was our response or feelings? And then some notes about that. And it's really important with bipolar disorder to become familiar with your triggers. And so for some people, it could be a big event like a wedding. For other people, it could be working too many hours. And so learning what those are, it's going to be different for everybody, but those triggers are going to be really important to track and become familiar with. Another category is going to be our coping strategies. So let's try new coping strategies and track how they help or how they don't help, because we're not going to keep doing something that doesn't help, but I'm going to keep doing things that do help. And then there's a spot for some additional notes if you want to, journal a little bit about your day, what helped, what didn't help, and what you're struggling with. And then also the next day plan. That's going to be really important because you're setting your intention for the next day of what your goals are for tomorrow and what your plan is for tomorrow.
So we build these tools out. They're all on our website. You can get them. They range between like 99 cents to like $2.99. They're super cheap, you guys. We build a lot of these for you guys to be able to use. You download it once and you have it. You can just keep printing it and reusing it. We build that stuff out for you guys. But here's the thing. That you're going to have very limited success with any of the resources that we have, unless you do two things. I'm going to teach you right now how to 10x your journaling, or any resource that we give you. I'm going to teach you how to 10x it. If you really want to have success, you need two things. Number one, you need to create a reward system for yourself for accomplishing the goal. Number two, you need to have an accountability partner that can hold you accountable to the actions that you're doing. That means telling a friend, hey, I'm doing this journal. I need you to check in with me every day, every week. Make sure, ask me the questions if I'm actually doing these things. Mm-hmm. And the reward system is really great. You could tell yourself, hey, I'm going to, when I hit my 7-day streak, I'm going to go buy myself that new hat or pair of shoes, whatever that is, whatever that thing is that you want. That delayed gratification is going to tell your mind to keep doing the task so you can achieve the goal, because your mind is reward driven. That's the way God designed us. So every day that you complete one day, you're going to get a little hit of dopamine, knowing that you're getting closer and closer and closer to that prize, whatever it is. So finding the motivation is really difficult. But if you do the task, then the motivation comes automatically to do the next day and the next day and the next day, then you get the reward. So you should be setting up 7, 14, 21 day bonus streaks for yourself to accomplish these goals. And then tell a friend that's what you want to do. They can hold you accountable. Those two things will help you 10x anything that we give you on the Mental Health Janitors.
Another thing that I would add is aim low. Jordan Peterson says aim low. One of the problems is a list like that. To me, if I were to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder and then you give me a tool like that, I'm like, this is really overwhelming. This is a lot to do. So pick one. Just pick one for the day. I'm just going to track for the next 7 days my mood. That's it. And then in Atomic Habits, the book, a really good book, you should read it. It talks about compounding goals. Okay. Compounding habits. So after that 7 days of just tracking my mood, then maybe I'll track my meals or my sleep, whatever the next thing is. And then slowly compound on top of that, because the lower you aim, the more success you're going to have achieving it. Yeah.
Yep. And there's another great book called The Compound Effect, which just talks about that right there. How when you just achieve small little goals over and over and over again, that stacks up over time. And you have more sustained success than if you did every one of those things every day for 7 days, but it was really arduous. And so on the 8th day, you just said, you know what, it's just too much, and you give up. It's easier for your brain to accomplish small little goals, and they build on themselves. That way you don't relapse into that despair. Yeah. You're like, oh, I can't do this.
Exactly. And that's big for people with bipolar disorder.
I think it's big for everybody, but yeah, probably even more so for them, right?
Yeah. For everybody, yeah. But
well, here at the Mental Health Janitors, we like to do 3 things. We like to educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey.
Make sure that you guys are liking and subscribing to our videos, giving us those thumbs up, and please share away, because we're on this 60-day push still to see if this is something we're going to keep going with or not. Okay.
All right. Well, for the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Doc Jess.
And we're out.